All right, let's come into the space with a little attunement. And if you're comfortable closing your eyes and begin to feel the floor under your feet, the ground under your feet, the pull of the earth that holds you to your seat, the support of the physical gravity of the earth. And imagine the energy rising from the earth and moving up through your body, through your belly, your heart, your mind. And imagine that you're walking in a sacred forest, walking on a path, your own path, path of your own imagination. And to feel the soft earth, the soft, damp earth under your feet. And listen just for a moment if there are any sounds, any creatures in the distance, or birds or chipmunks. There's a little sound of running water. So we just walk our path, feeling the rhythm. So we come to the edge of the forest where there's a clearing. In the clearing, we can see that there's a fire burning. So we just find our place, gradually walking towards the fire, find our place to sit around the circle, feeling the warmth and radiance, allowing a little bit of space, a little bit of relaxation. And give thanks for the stones, the ring of stones around the fire and the trees that form a sacred circle. And we invite the animals, any animals who wish to be here to participate, to support us in any way. And other lineages, our higher selves, our light bodies, the ancestors. Let's just imagine for a moment, let's come back to the fire and imagine that you're holding a little dog. Maybe it's your first dog or a little puppy. Feel the love in your heart. Just imagine that love is like a golden foaming liquid fire from your heart, expanding your heart. Feeling that unconditional nature of that love and that loyalty. And the feeling of stability that it brings. The feeling of protection, of safety. And of fearlessness. And faithfulness. And so welcome, dog. Welcome to the dog, spirit of dog. And let that go. Wiggle your toes. Open your eyes.
Thank you, David, for this beautiful introduction us to the fire and to the dogs, to the you mentioned the loyalty and unconditional love, and I couldn't agree more. Dogs are all that and so much more. I was so happy that we are doing this topic today, because every time I even think of dogs, my heart just actually really grows and expands. And I've always had dogs since I was little. I begged my parents since I was pretty much born, could we have please a dog? And we did, and they were lovely enough to like say yes, even though my mom wasn't as keen on the mess. But you know, I would just pull my cutest eyes and was begging, begging, begging until they probably didn't have any other choice really. So I wanted to share today, because whenever I think of dogs, I actually always have this story of the famous dog called Hachiko. I'm sure most of you or some of you heard about this doggy and his story. And the story goes back to sort of 1920s Japan, and this professor, he adopted the puppy and named him Hachiko. And every time he went to work, the dog, when he obviously grew a bit older, he was walking with him and waiting for him at the station every day. So every time he comes back from the work, Hachiko was there. And that just lasted for years and years, until one day the professor had a heart attack at work and just never came back. And Hachiko, for the next 10 years after that, was seen to that he was waiting at the train station, at the Shibuya station, to greet his friends, and he was nowhere to be seen. It sort of breaks my heart, the story, just to feel this, like for 10 years to have that loyalty to someone and that love. And the locals started noticing that the dog was there, so they start bringing him food. They start like, you know, like taking care of him basically. It took like a whole town to then get to know Hachiko and sort of step in for the friend that he lost and missed. So now it's, even till now, there is a bronze statue of Hachiko, and to remind this about this loyalty and the love that dog can bring to our life. And it's such a touching story for me, because and there's even a film, actually, you can watch it. I think it's with Richard Gere, and I cried my eyes out every time I watched it. I watched it a couple of times, and but it's just, it touches something in me, like deeply, of that unconditional love that animal can have for a human being. I mean, I don't feel you can get any other animal, even though there are animals who also are incredible. But I feel there's something about dogs that are there for you, and there's so many more stories. And I wanted to actually, I shared this story in honor of all the really dogs, and especially my dog, because me and Martin, we've been very blessed to welcome Sunny in our life about 8 years ago. He's our golden retriever. He's my boy. He's my friend, my soul, and everything in between. I love him so dearly, and every day he gives me and Martin and us as a family so many reasons to laugh, to experience joy, to he expands our hearts to beyond belief. You know, he can sense when I feel a bit off or something, and he's there, right there. He comes in, he knows exactly the moment, and it every day it still amuses me how tuned in he is. And in general, just, you know, he does things that I can't even explain in a human sort of realm. So everyone who has the honor to have a dog in their life, in their family, I'm sure knows about what I'm sharing here, that they just bring this beautiful, beautiful energy into our lives. And as my dear friend, and I wanted to share something from Sunny specifically, But to be fair, there's so many beautiful moments that I just couldn't pick one, and hence I went for Hachiko because I feel that's like a beautiful sum up of how our doggies are. And I wanted to honor all my doggies from when I was little. So Psotka with her beautiful cross, white cross on her forehead, that she came to our life when I was very young and very much needed her. Being very sensitive, she just gave me that incredible comfort and understanding. I felt like she understood me more than many others around me at that age. And then we had Tofik, a crazy, crazy one. Then there was Pesca for a very short time. And then we had Manula, which she was with us for 17 years. So that was beautiful. She was like blessing to our family. And now it's Sunny. So that's all the doggies in my life so far, and each one of them I'm thanking them so much. And as my friend said that the dear friend, the Pika, amazing energy healer, she said at one point that dogs come to us in precise moment. They are like particle of our own soul, and they know when to come when we are needed to be reminded of that unconditional love, the joy, more of the fun in our life, and all that juicy, amazing things that dogs bring. So thank you. That's my share.
Hi, this is Anne. And I've had dogs throughout my life also. So lots of great memories of antics and love given and received from dogs. But today I wanted to just divert slightly and then come back. So in the Pulse, we're in the 29th gene key at this moment, and it's the city of devotion. And that in the dream arc is the cockatoo, and it's the vision of devoted friendship. And in the codex, this is the bird of love, and it asks, are you ready to feel love like you never have before? And it speaks of friendship as a wellspring of love. And it asks us in all our relationships, can we just love them without wishing to change them? And all of those statements really just shouted to me, dog, 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 and my experiences with dog. So our family dog, it was a Welsh Terrier, and his name was Snowdon, after the mountain in Wales. And when I think of those questions, are you ready to feel love like you never have before? It totally reminds me of how he opened all our hearts when we brought this little tiny black bundle back we had to go over to Vancouver to get him, and we had a big journey and bring him back. And just how he made us laugh and healed each of us in his own way. And I mean, he's been gone for 9 years, and we still laugh and talk about all his various antics and whenever we gather. So it's he's kind of always with us, and it's so beautiful. I was looking through some pictures last night of him, and he used to sit on our deck and just watch over everything in the garden. And then he would do a Superman leap off the garden and race towards the path, and just a complete change of state from this incredible calm watching to action. So that was love. And then it's the statement, it speaks of friendship as the wellspring of love. And for me, he gave me back daily walks. And I just, I've always been active and everything, but it was the walks out every day. And that returned me to nature, to listening, appreciation, watching the cycles of the season, and expanding my own community because there's all these other dog walkers out there who you smile with and stop and chat. And that was always wonderful. And the other statement was, it asks us in all our relationships, can we just love them without wishing to change them? And I just felt that Snowden helped to change me. And he would, after I'd had a busy day at the clinic and I'd, seen 12 to 15 people in a morning, I would come home, have my lunch, and I would have a power nap. And he would always come and curl up in my knees and just be there with me. And I just felt that he was restoring my energy and helping me, as was the nap. But it was just such a beautiful thing. And sometimes when I'd be working on an issue, he would come in, and if I had a point of pain, he would like put his head right where that point of pain was. And I just felt he was such a healer for me. And the last story about Snowden is that after he passed, I had a dream that he came to me, and he came and he snuggled in my arms and he told me he loved me and how he's always present. And I remember saying in the dream to him, "You can talk." And he turned to me and went, "Of course I can talk." And that was our dog of love and devotion for our family. I'm
There's just too many dog stories, right? There's so many dog stories, and I'll just see what comes up. But you really touched me with both of your stories, and I when I began to sort of feel into the dog energy, I started thinking of those dogs that have come and gone, and um, the first dog that I had was I was a teenager and really wanted a dog, and this dog just one of my mom's friends just appeared with this tiny little dog puppy, and it wasn't exactly like what I had imagined, but of course she uh, stole our hearts and sort of carried me through my teen years. But I wasn't, because of the changes in my own life, I wasn't there when she passed away. And when our girls were young, uh, we wanted a dog. They wanted a dog. However that works, the big brown eyes. And we got a little puppy who was a border collie mix. So he had a lot of energy. Named him Jasper, and he definitely needed walks and got me out by the river walking and throwing the ball. And he was a beautiful, loving creature. And there, he got later on as he got older, he had some kind of sickness, some kind of a growth, and we knew that he wasn't doing too well, but we had scheduled a trip to go visit, you know, my wife's mother, and we were going to be gone, and we had somebody that was caring for him there, watching over him, and he passed away while we were gone, which is interesting that sometimes animals will go uh, very privately, they'll pass away, and so I was reminded of it was very sad for us. Of course we cried, and later I buried him in the backyard and kind of had a little ceremony for him. But it's interesting because dogs have often been held as guardians of the underworld, in a symbolic sense. It's Cerberus, Anubis, these different dog creatures, dog spirits that um, are like protectors of this other world, this unconscious world. And so my uh, I have a little different way of maybe grieving than my wife, but one of hers is we're not getting another dog, and too much work, too much maybe emotional investment, and to see them go is so hard. And then it must have been a couple of years later, we were going camping on the Oregon coast, and we were just taking a little sort of detour in a town and walking down the street, and this little dog came running up to us, you know, 2 pound dog, literally. And it's the cutest thing ever. And the woman was standing outside, and she had a couple of other larger, um, still small chihuahuas. And she said, "Do you want a dog?" And we were like, there was no way we could say no to this little creature. And she had given her a very sort of um, powerful spirit name. She named her Nakota, which is a Sioux uh, name. And my wife decided she needed a cute name. And so she's now called Tilly. But it's interesting to think about the way um, Cassia spoke of the way dogs can find you. Because we were at this point when our daughters had just left the house. So we were in this empty nester phase that really feels it's a bit like grieving your kid's childhood in a way. And there's changes that go through. And this little dog just appeared. And the first thing we did, we had her, camping in a tent. And so she was right there between us. And for years and years and years, she slept right there between us in the bed. And like emanating this emotional healing quality that's really hard to put words upon. Um, it's interesting that the word equanimity is given in uh, the dream arc, the cheerful equanimity. And so she's still our current beloved one who found us, and she's 15 years old now, and she can be a bit cranky, but it just reminds me when she's sleeping so fully that her space is sacred. And so if she gets disturbed, she can sound like a miniature Rottweiler. It sounds like she's gonna tear your face off, but at the same time, she's such a beautiful, loving creature. It's just amazing. So when I when I explored, it's interesting because when I explored my um, messages that I've received from the dog through animal balance, they're almost all about specific animals. Like I have one here from Jasper, and there's even a time when I was working with the new moon animal balance creatures, where I choose one for the father, one for the mother, one for the child. I had one month where the wolf, the dog, and the fox all came together as, you know, related four-leggeds, which was so interesting and so powerful. But maybe I'll just read Jasper's message, because after Jasper died, I would still go on these walks down to the river, and I could almost feel him behind me. Like he would just tear up and down and follow me, and I could still feel him there. It was just kind of uh, an interesting experience. And then gradually, I'd stop focusing on it. But in this particular message, when I asked him, after he was already buried in the earth, when I could feel his love, I asked him if he wished to speak, and he said, "Yes, I am Jasper. I am dog. I am the boundless energy of the border collie. The stone, Poppy Jasper, fills you with boundless energy of creative playfulness." I was also playing with the healing gemstones at the time, the earth stones. "Remember when you feel stuck in the mud or when a bully throws sand in your face. You don't have to play in that sandbox. You may run in circles and play elsewhere, even disappear as the fox does. Spiraling within to the center, I find a love that is loyal to the highest good and seeks approval only from the master of all. If you're stuck in the mud of indecision, ask yourself, am I seeking approval outside myself I am dog. I am here to share the path of playful curiosity, which allows for complete loyalty to the master without needy desires for constant approval and praise of people. And he said, service is attunement to the master while following the call of your own heart song. Much love and respect for all life. Thank you, Jog. Thank you, Jasper.
Thank you, David. It was really fun to meet your dog. And your wife in person. It was, you know, we often hear, that the master looks like the dog, or the dog looks like the master, and certainly it wasn't that. Like, what that wasn't going on. Like, it wasn't like a visual thing, but an energetic thing. It was like the fact that your little dog was there. It was like a direct communicator on the subtle level versus the sort of outer communications that we may be doing or having to do. And that is what I want to say about dogs. The presence of dogs is almost like a balm or a antidote or a tonic for communication that is more subtle among families. And by families, I don't mean those people who necessarily are blood related, but certainly those of us who dwell together. And right before this, I had no clue what I was going to share. I stopped in here and I'm in a new home, and that's not unusual for me. This is the view I woke up to this morning. I've never been here before. And I'm very happy, very grateful to be here. I love the people. These are my new family. I feel like every time I move from place to place and engage with my next dwelling unit, my next community of beloveds, I become instantly loyal, instantly loving, instantly in a process of the heart with these beings. And I was with Anne at her house. Like it's just like drop right in. Like all families are the family of dog. And even just saying it, my heart is just singing like with beauty about how when there's a stray dog, like you shared, our heart goes out and we just want it to have a home. And so I also have a sense of a lot of tenderness and humility and even sometimes shame around being that dog. In the Mayan dream spell reality, I am called a white self-existing dog. And in the white self-existing dog emanation of the whole, the words are thus: I define in order to love. So when I show up into a space, it is natural for me to want to define it. So if I land into one of these new homes that has invited me in because they feel so warm and welcoming and they're so much like family, because we are, then immediately I will sort of pace around and find, where's the bathroom, where's the kitchen, where's the bed, where's the comfortable spot, where's the challenging spot, how can I fluff this up? Like, how can I offer also then, like, to the benefit of this community that I'm living with now, like, how can I give my love even more? And I define that, like, okay, they want to text up and down stairs, so I'm going to be on the text thread with them, and all this happens within, an hour of sort of assessing the situation and how to best serve. And then measuring loyalty, that's my role, to measure loyalty. And sometimes this is really wonderful, and I'm very happy to do that. Other times it's very challenging because my loyalty is always going to be more than most. Just like the dog, you know, it's just the way it goes. I am failingly as a human, loyal as a dog. Failingly loyal as a human sometimes. And it says, I seal the process of the heart. So I'm just feeling into that. But the main word in that for me are heart and process, because it doesn't seem to be about the product or the final something. It's more about the ways that the hearts are sharing along the way and the process of that. And yet, with the self existing tone of form. So, form being like very solid, very real stuff. And so that is very much what every day is about for me, is the body and that kind of thing. And so I guess what I'm doing today is I'm like talking as a dog. Like I'm like giving the dog message through my presence, and not really telling stories about dogs in my life, because as y'all said, there are way too many to even choose one. But the last one, and then I'm going to share just one little thing from the dream arc about the dog, because it makes me cry to read it. So perhaps it'll make you cry or laugh too. The last thing about self-existing dogs is that we are guided by the power of death. And to just allow the resonance of that, the love that arises when we recognize our deaths, and recognize the deaths of our dogs, and recognize the deaths of time and the limits that we have in these lives, and how very, very precious it is to love and be together every one of those moments, and try to find ways to have peace, have empathy, have equilibrium in our places and our homes while we are alive. Yeah, so I'll just read this last little thing. Go out into your family and find the outcast members. This may even be you. In the great family, there are no outcasts, only misunderstandings. Your sacred task is to address the wound within your family. Perhaps you find this wound to be beyond repair. All wounds can be healed in time. You may need to try a new approach. How would deep forgiveness approach this situation, this relationship? If you do not know where to begin, look again. Use the power of your intuition and let the dog inside you sniff out the pain. Then take great courage and move toward the pain. Feel the pain. You do not need to fear the pain of another. Open your heart and let it speak the words that must be spoken. Words of healing. Thank you.
That was so beautiful, Momo. And thank you so much for presencing the dog so beautifully. I was wondering why, this is Margaret, by the way. I was wondering why I was waiting to the end, but between listening to David speak about the dog being the the guardian of the underworld, and then your share just then, Momo, really helped me to understand. Last night I was having a hard time sleeping, as I was, I contemplated what my dog stories would be. I haven't had a dog in my life for many, many years, and consciously, I think, mostly because of just really that deep feeling of grief that has come through some of my, you know, my relationships with dogs. And but two things came up really powerfully. And the first one was the first dog that was like my dog. When I was, I think I was 8 years old, we got my family got an Australian Shepherd named Sydney, and she would she herded me. I was the littlest one in the family, and she made sure that I was where I was supposed to be at all times. and and she would walk me to school and walk herself home. It was she she was my everything, right? All I cared about was Sydney. And we went on vacation. One of my older sisters and I and my parents went on vacation, and my dog was being taken care of by one of my even older sisters. And we came home and we had been singing songs about Sydney. My sister and I had made up songs about our dog, and we were so excited. And we came home and couldn't find her, and running up and down the stairs calling, and it turns out she had been hit by a car, and wasn't there anymore. And in that moment, I decided that for one thing, I had a hard time forgiving my sister for years, actually. I put blame on her for not whatever it was, these things happen. But and I also decided that there could not possibly be a God. And it was very, very powerful and potent for me for years, that this was impossible, that a God would let let that happen. And it wasn't until I didn't even realize that I was sort of still carrying that until I was a teenager, and I I witnessed a beautiful Newfoundland get hit by a car, and I was with a friend who had a truck, and I sat in the back of the truck with this Newfoundland in my lap as we raced to the vet, and this this beautiful spirit died in my arms, and I felt this beautiful being and this incredible wisdom and all of this love pass all the way through my body and just stay with me, even though the body was lifeless. This energy was so powerful, and I was given the gift of understanding that life goes on, and that there is this energy, this oneness, and that has carried me, that the wisdom of that dog has carried me through the rest of my life. And then one last memory that came in was a dog that I had, Heidi. She was a German Shepherd, and she and I were so in sync that I was a runner at the time, and I, medium distance, 6 to 8 miles a day, and early in the morning in the city. And every time my hand would go back in my rhythm of running, I would barely touch her nose. It would barely touch her nose. She stayed with me in such perfect rhythm that every single time my hand went back, it would touch her nose. And that feeling of just being so incredibly in sync, and not having to say a word. That was our relationship. Was I learned how to speak dog better so that she didn't have to listen to verbal commands, and getting yelled at, or those kinds of things. It was like we just came into this synchronicity or synchronous relationship that I cherish. And this was many, many years ago, but I still cherish that feeling, and I just honor the dog for all of that beauty and all of that wisdom that they've imparted in my life. Thank you.
Thank you so much all for bringing that side of the loss of the dog as well, because I feel like if something can shatter your heart so much, losing a dog, it means that the love that they brought is like beyond description. And that's probably, yeah, that's why I feel so shattering when they go. And the understanding is that they're still there, and it's beautiful. And I just wanted to finish with a little image of our Sunny as a puppy. I just had this on the wall here, so I thought I might bring it, because he's just, for those who are actually not watching but listening, Sunny, little puppy, golden retriever, is running on the field of daffodils with like a stick. So it's just such a beautiful, heartwarming image that every time I feel a bit down or a bit something, I mean, I have it in my, because I took this photo anyway, so I remember that him running towards me and the joy that filled my heart. And I just wanted to sort of add it on to our beautiful campfire episode today. I feel like we might be coming back to dogs. It's been so rich. So thank you. Thank you all.